and welcome. If you're new to this channel, I'm Pixel Paul, and if you're returning once again, thanks for pressing play as ever. So before I get started, hope you all had an amazing Christmas. Hope you had a really good time. I hope you've drunk too much, hope you've eaten too much, and I hope you got plenty of presents and plenty of gaming presents as well. So yeah, I hope you've all had an amazing time. We've had a great time here at Pixel Towers. The Pixel family have had a good time. I've got some nice gifts. I got some nice gaming stuff, which I'll probably show you at some point. But yeah, so I hope you've all had a really nice time. So the focus of today's video was, or is, a Q&A, so question and answer session. A week or two ago, I asked everybody, I reached out to all my subscribers and all my followers on Instagram as well. Said I was going to do a Q&A session. Never done one like this before, so very new to doing a Q&A, but I think I've managed to sort of sort it so you can see the questions and I'll be able to answer them and what have you. I have seen the questions beforehand, and you sent plenty in, probably enough to do just the one video at the moment. I wasn't sure whether to maybe split it across two videos, but I think I'll be able to fit it into one. So I will try and do that now. So yeah, I've seen the questions, pulled out a few games for some of them, but I've not thought too much about the other questions. A lot of them will come off the top of my head. So if you're happy for me to, to make a start, and if you haven't already got yourself a brew, I suggest you get yourself a brew, get comfortable, and listen to me warble on about answering your questions for the next half an hour or so. So let's crack on. So the first question. So this one comes from UK Collector 1, and the question is, what got you into collecting games, and what games do you like that you don't yet own in your collection? Okay, so I guess when I originally started collecting games when I was a kid, when I got my first Game Boy and then the Super Nintendo, I'd always had an interest in arcades. I'd always loved going into arcades, and I'd always liked playing on those little sort of Tomitronic kind of machines as well. So I'd always had a bit of a fascination with gaming. So it all started from there, really. Back then I kind of did collect a certain amount of games and then trade a lot of games in as well, because it was the only way to afford to get newer games or different games. So yeah, I suppose back then that's what got me into gaming. My dad was a big collector of music as well, so I kind of followed suit with him, and I guess gaming was my sort of collecting addiction, if you like. But as far as sort of starting to recollect a couple of years ago, I think it was just a chance thing where I just bought a PlayStation Portable, got it for a reasonable price, and it kind of just sparked something again. I just thought, let's start collecting video games again. I'd had to sell my original collection off for different reasons about 10 years ago, something like that. So yeah, I just sort of suddenly got the spark to do it again. And what games do you like that you don't yet own in your collection? Ooh, probably still a big list. The immediate ones that sort of spring to mind, I'd still like to pick up Lilac Wars. If you've been watching a few videos this month of mine, you'll have heard me mention about Lilac Wars quite a few times, so I'm still after a copy of that. I don't know, there's quite a long list. I still would like The Last Story on the Nintendo Wii. I'd like to pick that up at some point. But yeah, there's just so many sort of games still out there that I've not collected, I've not played yet. Certainly a lot of newer games as well. That's one of the things I want to do this year, is concentrate on trying to get through some of the current gen, so the PlayStation 5 stuff, the games that I've got, the games that came out this year. Yeah, there's still quite a few that I want to play. So yeah, those are the ones that I'm looking for at the moment. Dead Space on PlayStation 5 is still high on my get to get list. So but it keeps eluding me at a decent price, but we'll keep looking. So next question from SNEStastic Official, another YouTuber, great channel. What are your collection plans for 2024? So I suppose I've just kind of answered that a little bit, but yeah, mainly I'd like to try and sort of concentrate, not necessarily concentrate, but I do want to certainly put a lot more focus on playing on the current gen and getting through that backlog. But yeah, as far as this collection goes, maybe sort of plugging those gaps, like The Last Story on the Nintendo Wii. I am possibly thinking about something like maybe a Dreamcast at some point. I wouldn't mind getting the Dreamcast back into the collection again at some point. And I would like to maybe collect a few more N64 games and possibly boxed SNES games as well if I can, and Mega Drive. So I think the collection plans for this year is very much current gen and those old school sort of 16-bit games and N64 games. So I think that's what I'm looking for. Possibly a less is more kind of focus this year. So next question, and that's from Game Junction Media. Where do you get most of your video and post ideas? I suppose a lot of it is sort of inspiration from people on Instagram, people on YouTube. There's only so many ways you can show video games on those two platforms, I think. So it's hard to come up with different stuff or new stuff. It's like, you know, doing this Q&A thing. I put out about doing a Q&A a couple of weeks ago, and then it seemed like everybody was doing a Q&A. I'm not saying they're copying me or anything at all, but you know, there's only so many ways you can sort of present video games on those two platforms. So I get a lot of inspiration from other YouTubers, obviously, and a lot of people on Instagram. But a lot of them, I just kind of, I don't do a lot of planning, especially with Instagram, because I don't have a lot of time to do it. I do churn out the content on there quite often, but a lot of it is kind of, I'll think of it over the weekend, I'll take pictures and then schedule them for over the week. Occasionally there'll be sort of something will happen maybe in the games industry and I'll think, well, I could tie a post in with that and that sort of thing. But a lot of the time it's just seeing the game, thinking, I've not posted that, let's get that on, it's quite interesting. And a lot of the time it's, I want to kind of show games that maybe people don't know about or haven't heard of as much. So when I can put up a game on Instagram, say, that, you know, not many people have heard of, you know, if it doesn't get too many likes, but someone turns around and says, oh, I've never heard of that game, I'm going to give it a go. For me, that gives me a bigger buzz than sort of getting likes or whatever. So yeah, I think most of those ideas are just kind of very winging it, just doing it on the fly and just thinking weekend by weekend, week by week, what I've not posted. So yeah, whether I'll start to run out of ideas for those posts this year, I'm not sure, but we'll see if we can continue the sort of momentum that I've got with the Instagram channel and the YouTube channel as well. So next question from rsumo41, Brett. Do you go for games you like the look of or just grab anything you can? Okay, so I'm very much a collector first. So my main aim is to build a collection up. So when I go out to car boots, when I go out to CEX, when I go to any shops, I'm looking for games to add to my collection, but for the right price. So I'm always looking for the best price on games that I want to get and want to play, most importantly. But I'm not sort of saying that I wouldn't pick up a game if it was at a decent price and sell it on. It's just, sometimes it's time, you just don't have time to do it. But yeah, if I saw a game at a decent price, yeah, I would grab it and possibly sell it on. But most of the time, I'm just looking for stuff that I haven't got in my collection or haven't played before. That's the main sort of motivation for going out to places and looking for things. Yeah, I'm not one of these that will just grab anything. I know some people do. Will go to a charity shop and they'll see stuff and, you know, they'll just grab it and then put it on Facebook Marketplace and try and get whatever they can for it. I just haven't got the time to do that at the moment. So yeah, I won't just grab anything. And plus, if I know the game's really terrible, I won't grab it, because what's the point? If it's terrible, then I'm not going to play it probably. And yeah, so yeah, it's mainly the games that I just want to add into the collection. That's my sort of motivation for collecting at the moment. So next one is from Pearson T. I think that's how you pronounce it. What are your thoughts on some of the terrible games that have come out this year? For example, Gollum and the King Kong game. The disappointment of some towards Starfield. Has the gaming world become oversaturated? I don't know if it's become oversaturated. I think there's always been bad games. There will always be bad games. You know, it's just like there will always be bad movies. And don't forget, I mean, it's always subjective as well. I think with games, it's possibly a little bit different because there's so many elements, you know, the actual how you interact with the game and not necessarily what you think of it. There's a lot more sort of intricate parts to playing a game, if you like, that can make a game bad. But I mean, by all accounts, Golem and King Kong, they were or are bad games. I think I don't know whether the industry sort of become saturated or not. I certainly think when you look at the amount of games that you can get on, say, Nintendo eShop and the PlayStation Store and Xbox, there's a huge amount of indie games out there. So whether that is becoming a bit oversaturated, I'm not sure. And again, you get bad games within those as well. But the difference is with those, and sometimes, when you get sort of the newer games and they get the price reduction, it comes down to price. And I think also expectations as well. So if you're paying for a game on the eShop, say, you're paying 80p or something for it, if it lasts you 5 minutes and it's not great, then you kind of put up with it. But if you're paying 60 quid for Golem, can you imagine paying 60 quid for Golem? I'm sorry if you did. If you're paying 60 quid for Golem, then yeah, I can understand why you would be upset and why you wouldn't be particularly happy about it. Just sort of like mentioning there, Starfield, it's also sort of like that expectation as well. We're so used to getting games nowadays which are hyped and hyped and hyped. And if they come out and they're not perfect, then they come across as being disappointing. But does it make it a bad game necessarily? I've not played Starfield. Personally, I've heard sort of decent reviews of it, but I know some people are starting to get bored of it a little bit. But yeah, there will always be bad games, but again, I sort of put it down to how much you are willing to sort of pay for games as well. So, I mean, if you've paid 60 quid for Golem, having seen reviews of it, if you just thought, well, I want to give it a go anyway, maybe you should take more notice of those reviews perhaps. But, I mean, when I'm out and about collecting, and I sort of said it before, I won't just go out and buy bad games. But at the same time, if I see a game and I know it had sort of average reviews or average to poor reviews back in the day, and it's only a quid, then I think, well, why not? I'll give that a go. The first one that springs to mind is Dark Void, say on the PlayStation 3 and on the Xbox 360. So it's cheap as chips, got really average to poor reviews when it came out. So I don't mind paying £1 for that. And my expectations are pretty low for it. And I thought it was okay. It was not great. It was bit janky in that, but for £1, I'm not going to complain about it. But yeah, I think if you are paying 60 quid for a game and it's terrible, then you've got a right to be disappointed. But at the same time, you've got to sort of look at these reviews and think, is it a bit of a risk spending 60 quid on a game that everybody's saying is rubbish, even if I'm a massive Lord of the Rings fan or a King Kong fan. But yeah, as far as is the game will becoming oversaturated, I don't know. I don't know if we're running out of ideas a little bit, possibly. We are seeing sort of like a big reliance on key sort of franchises these days. There's not a huge amount of new big sort of AAA titles coming out, if you like, that are brand new franchises. So wherever the bigger games are becoming a little bit saturated, I don't know. But yeah, it's an interesting question, and one maybe I can take away for a discussion on another video. But yeah, I'm not sure if it's becoming oversaturated, just maybe our expectations are quite high for games at the moment. So I hope that answers that. Next question. So iCola1984. What is a console you've never owned but wanted to? So I've been quite lucky in that the majority of consoles that I've wanted to play, I've been able to buy either as an adult or I've had them as a kid. I suppose one that I've never owned, never likely to own, would be a Neo Geo. I've always loved the look of the Neo Geo, but it's so expensive. And of course, a lot of those games that you could get on there, a lot of the beat 'em ups, are now available on the other systems anyway. So, but yeah, Neo Geo maybe. One that I have thought about quite recently and quite often, because I've been playing a lot of handheld games at the moment, is the Game Gear, the Sega Game Gear. So I've never had a Sega Game Gear. So yeah, if I was going to answer that question, I would say probably Sega Game Gear. Okay, moving on. Retro Gamer Dan, what's your preference to go to? Boot sale, marketplace, charity shop, independent, or the red shop? So, I think it depends what I'm looking for, really. So, I mean, if you break those down, boot sales and charity shops, they are the unknowns, aren't they? So you go to them and you probably have low expectations most of the time, but you just don't know what you're going to find at those. So I do like the thrill of going to boot sales and charity shops and, you know, just potentially finding something that you've not got in the collection. So I do like going to those, but I understand that I might not always come away with anything or anything I wanted. Indie shops, love going to indie shops just because, again, you don't know what you're going to get, but you know that there's going to be stuff that you haven't got in your collection. So again, like one of my favorites is like Lee's Games in Morecambe. Great shop, and it's just a great place to go if you're a gamer, because you can just just sort of browse around and spend ages in that shop and just be looking. And it's the same with other independent shops around the country. Marketplace, I'm assuming you mean sort of like Facebook Marketplace and sort of like, I guess, eBay as well. Never really used them a huge amount. Not for any particular reason. I personally prefer to be able to sort of go and pick up a game and see it and then buy it. Again, you know, you have the whole sort of CEX roulette thing where you don't quite know what you're going to get when you order something online. So I suppose eBay and Facebook Marketplace can be a little bit like that as well. I'm not keen on like the person-to-person interaction that you get with like Facebook Marketplace when you have to go around to Burt's and Radcliffe and pick up a skanky old Xbox 360 or whatever. I'd rather not do that. So yeah, I've never really used Facebook Marketplace. I have used it once this year, actually, to be fair, and it was for the Wii U, which I managed to get for £45. So that was one time I've used Facebook Marketplace. And then of course, like CEX, the red shop. So I do love CEX, and I would miss CEX if it wasn't around, because it's the go-to place, isn't it, at the moment? You know, if when you're sort of trying to find games, and you're trying to find out what price you should be paying for that game, CEX is usually the yardstick that you use to price a game up. So yeah, I do like CEX. I know it has a bad reputation for various reasons, but yeah, you can't beat going into the CEXs and seeing what they've got, you know, flicking through the shelves and what have you. I do like the fact that you can look on the app and see what stock they've got there as well. And I like watching, and this is going to sound really nerdy and a bit statty, but I really like watching the fluctuations and, you know, the increases and decreases of prices as well on the app, and keeping an eye on, you know, when things drop in price. And it's almost like the sort of gamble of, you know, do I get it now or do I wait a little bit? Will it go up? Will it go down? It's a bit like stocks and shares in a way. So I quite like that side of CEX as well. And in fairness, CEX has cleaned up a little bit. The stores don't smell quite as much as they used to. So they're quite pleasant to go in as well. You obviously get some interesting clientele in there sometimes. But yeah, I do like CEX. And I do like game. I know that's, again, that, you know, some people probably roll their eyes at that, but I do like game. I think especially for current gen and the last gen, you know, you can spot some real decent buys in game occasionally. I know it's not as focused on video games these days. I know there's a heck of a lot of toys and board games and all other sort of gaming merch in there as well. But you do spot, and you can find some decent buys in game as well. And it's just another place you can get games on the high street as well. So I don't begrudge game. I do think they could improve. I think there's things that they could do better. But yeah, for current gen and sort of last gen as well, yeah, it's still a decent place to find games. And I like Smith's as well, Smith's toy stores, because they do some really decent prices on current gen and last gen. So yeah, do I have a preference? Again, so it depends what I'm looking for, I guess. So that possibly doesn't answer your question, Dan, but yeah, that's the honest answer, is that it depends what I'm looking for, really. But I do like a boot sale. Okay, next, Corbyn's Combo. Hi, mate. What is your favourite PlayStation exclusive? Ooh, right. So, I am, I collect for everything. I play all the systems, Nintendo, Xbox, PlayStation, but I am a bit of a PlayStation boy. So I do like my PlayStation games. If I had to pick one of the PlayStation exclusives, and I think when we say exclusives, it's console exclusive, if you like. So, you know, it's not available on the Xbox. I know they're available on PC, some of these things, but, you know, as far as consoles go, yeah, I would say probably Uncharted. I do love the Uncharted games. If I had to pick one, it would be Uncharted 2 and Horizon Zero Dawn as well. So those two are probably my most favourite PlayStation games, certainly of the recent years, and exclusives anyway. So yeah, I'd pick those two, Uncharted 2 and Horizon Zero Dawn. Next up, and this is from yet another game collector. Would be interesting to know if you remember your first video game. Bonus points if you can remember the first game for more than one console. Always interested to know what people started out with. Okay, so yeah, I will get the bonus points for this. So the first game I got was Tetris, obviously, with my first Game Boy. The first game I bought for that was Super Mario Land. If you want to go for my other consoles, I can probably do it quite quickly. So Super Nintendo was Street Fighter 2. N64 was Super Mario 64. NES was Star Wars. Okay, PlayStation was Metal Gear Solid. PlayStation 2 was Medal of Honor Frontline. PlayStation 3 was Metal Gear Solid 4. PlayStation 5 was Returnal. Xbox was Halo, obviously. Xbox 360 was Gears of War. Xbox One was Gears of War 4. What have I missed? Wii U was Zombie U. Wii was Wii Sports and Zelda. Is that everything? More or less everything, isn't it? So I'm assuming I'll get the bonus points for that. No, sorry, PlayStation 4. I missed that, didn't I? I think, but that was Destiny. Yeah, it was Destiny for PlayStation 4. I think I missed that one out. So yeah, first ever video game I bought was Super Mario Land. Okay, next, Tyler Johnston, Kia Ora. Hello, Paul. Loving your content as always. Just wondering if you have ever played Shadow of Rome. Has really interesting gameplay with two main characters that have had me hooked for hours as a kid. Have a great New Year's. You too, mate. So no, I've never played Shadow of Rome. I think that's the PlayStation 2 game. I'm not sure if it came out on Xbox as well, but I'm pretty sure it's a PlayStation 2 game. It's like Roman Gladiators, sort of hack and slash. No, I've not played that. It's not a genre. I don't mind that genre of game. I'm not that fussed about the sort of Roman setting. It's never kind of appealed to me. Having said that, I did play Rise on the Xbox One recently and really enjoyed that. So that's a really good game, very under the radar, really cheap as well, but stunning looking. So yeah, maybe Shadow of Rome. I'll have a look out for it, see if I can find it, see how much it's going for at the moment. Thanks for the recommendation. I'll keep an eye out for that one. Okay, next, Stables92. Loving the videos, bud. PlayStation pickups here from Instagram. Hi, mate. If you had to sell your game collection but got to keep one game, what would it be and why? Okay. So I actually had this question, or similar questions to this, when I went on JB Collect's YouTube channel earlier this year, and this was the sort of last question that he asked. So I will give the same answer as I did on that. If you've not seen that, give it a look. And give JB Collects a follow as well. But yeah, the game that I would want to keep would be Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past on the Super Nintendo. The main reason for that is because it's in absolutely mint condition, and although it's not the most expensive game, you could replace it possibly, but it's not a cheap game anymore. But just to find it in this condition, I'm not sure I would ever find it again in this kind of condition and be able to afford it. It's not sealed or anything like that. It's got a box protector on at the moment, but it's not sealed. But apart from that sort of seal, it's almost it's in immaculate condition. So I just don't think I would ever be able to find it again in that condition. And plus the sort of how I got it for a Christmas present from my dad. So yeah, I think I say my dad, it was from my mum and dad, obviously. But yeah, I think it would be that one. That would be the one I would have to keep, I think. So yeah, Legend of Zelda on the Super Nintendo. So from Kai Maffei on YouTube, another great channel. Make sure you give him a subscription. Cracking idea, fella. I'm going to be cheeky and ask two questions. What were the first 5 games you picked up, when you officially started collecting? So I'll answer that one first. So I did a bit of prep for this one. So way back in February 2021, it would have been, so about 2 years ago. This is before, well, I just got that PSP, which I mentioned earlier on. And not long after getting that, I just thought I'm going to go and have a quick look in a charity shop, because I've never done it before, just to see what they've got, games wise, just see if they've got anything. I was thinking, maybe they'll have some PSP games perhaps. So I was completely, unaware of what charity shops were sort of selling, and I knew they sold DVDs and what have you and CDs, but I wasn't sure about games. So I just thought I'll just nip to my local charity shop and see what they've got. And I came away with 5 games for £1, and it blew my mind. And that is part of the reason why I started to collect again, really. So when I say, when you say picked up when you officially started collecting, we'll go with, when I officially started collecting again. So it's sort of like 2 years ago. And these were the 5 that I bought for £1. So GTA 5, Far Cry 4, Medal of Honor, Call of Duty Ghosts, Assassin's Creed 3, all on the Xbox 360. And I think Ghosts actually also had a copy of Modern Warfare 2 loose in there as well. So I actually got 6 games in a way for £1. And you come away with those 5 games, and I was like, wow, if you can, pay £1 for 5 games every time you go to a charity shop, you'll soon build a collection up. Obviously things have changed, and charity shops have obviously sort of caught onto that now, and they will charge very sort of varying prices for games these days. Maybe have we made a rod for our own backs by doing that? Have we sort of put it out there that we're buying these games? I don't know. Again, maybe something for another video one day. But yeah, those were my first sort of 5 games. Like I say, I then went to another charity shop and found another 5 games. It just blew my mind that they were that easy to sort of pick up for that price as well. So yeah, those were the first 5. And what's your most interesting collecting hunting story? E.g., have you ever had to battle a granny for the last copy of Shadow Colossus? Keep up the good work, fella. Cheers, mate. Interesting stories. So I don't know whether they're interested or not, but certainly they were sort of like good buys. So I remember picking up a SNES and an Atari Jaguar at a church sale, going back quite a few years. So they were good pickups, amazing pickups. I mean, if you found those in a church sale now, wow. But yeah, that was quite interesting. That was quite good getting those. It was quite interesting when I was like sort of getting my Nintendo Wii. So I was a Nintendo Wii day one adopter, and at that time it was just before Christmas that was coming out as well, and everybody was searching around trying to get a pre-order and making sure that they were going to get one on day one. And everywhere I was trying, I was having no luck whatsoever. And I just happened to go to WH Smith's and ask if they were getting any Nintendo Wii's in, and they said yes. And they said, you'll be the first one to order it. And I was like, okay. So I managed to pre-order it from WH Smith in Manchester. It used to be massive, the WH Smiths in Manchester. And I think I was like one of the only people to do it from there. So everybody else was running around pre-Christmas trying to find a Wii, and I was just there with this one. I picked it up from Smith's, easy, no problem. So that was quite good. That was a bit of a win. And I always remember picking up my Nintendo 64 as well, and that was my first console that I bought with my own money. I was working then, but I bought that with my own money, and I managed to get that ordered from, I think it was Comet, not too far away from where I used to live. And I remember going with my dad to Comet on the morning of release. We were there dead early, yeah, there was only like 5 or 6 of us there, and yeah, just that was a special moment, that actually picking that up that morning. So yeah, those were the 2 stories, or 2 or 3 stories that I had there. I'm just going to take a quick break, get another cup of tea. I'll be back with you in 1 second. Okay, so I'm back in the room, got my brew, let my cat in as well because he was scratching at the door. I'm hoping that's not picked up on the microphone too much, but he was scratching because the rain's just started to come. So I've let him in as well. Okay, and let's get back to it. So next question. Robert Latham 4541. Okay, so what is your favourite game genre? And also, do you collect to have a collection, or do you collect for potential monetary gain? Great channel, by the way. Thanks, mate. So first question, your favourite game genre? Probably like those, it's a bit of a generic answer in a way, I suppose, but action adventure kind of, I don't know, exploration kind of games. So I do like, I'm not a massive fan of open world games, but I do like those kind of story driven, almost linear games like Uncharted, Tomb Raiders. I know Tomb Raider is a little bit more open world these days. But yeah, those kind of story-driven games, I do like. I do like those kind of games. Like I say, I'm not a massive fan of open world games, but I do like the kind of more sort of sci-fi open world games. So like Horizon, which I've mentioned before. Um, I don't know. Yeah, action adventure is the sort of my go-to, but I do like fighting games and beat 'em ups. I do like beat 'em ups. I do kind of like the side-scrolling shooters. You know, like Contra, Metal Slug kind of games as well. I do like those. I do like your scrolling beat 'em ups as well. So your Streets of Rage, Final Fight type games as well. I'm just trying to think. I kind of like aerial combat games. So, you know, like Star Wars Battlefront. My favourite bits of those are when you get into an X-Wing and you're flying around. So like Rogue Squadron as well. I like those kind of games. Um, I do like snowboarding games, which is the running gag on my channel. I know, because every time I do a Gaming Grabs video, I seem to pick up a snowboarding game. So I do like snowboarding games too. Yeah, I will literally play anything. I will give anything a go. But yeah, if I had to be pressed and I had to sort of pick one genre, I would say like that action adventure kind of exploration type game. And do you collect to have a collection or collect for potential monetary gain? So I think I've kind of answered that a little bit before, but yeah, I very much collect to have the collection. And that is my sort of main aim, to have a collection to be proud of, a collection that my two kids will hopefully enjoy in years to come when they have an appreciation for sort of the older consoles. You know, especially my little boy, you know, I'm hoping one day he'll be there collecting like PlayStation 5 games that are considered retro, maybe. So yeah, I mean, if I can build a collection like this, keep it nice, keep it going, keep it stored and safe somewhere, you know, one day he'll sort of, you know, maybe inherit this collection and think, wow, you know, he won't have to go out and look for all this stuff at probably extortionate prices because he'll have it all there. So that's the sort of main thing with the collecting. And also I want to play, believe it or not, when I have time. Okay, so next question from Retrohead. So another YouTuber, great channel. Hi mate, big fan, thank you. Tricky question, but would love to know the answer. Which console do you think is best, SNES or Mega Drive? Cheers. Okay, so that is such an old school 16-bit era question, and I love it. So it's a difficult one because I do like both consoles. If I had to choose one, I would say probably the Super Nintendo, just because that's the one I had when I was a kid. My little brother was more of the Mega Drive guy, although he wasn't as much into his gaming sort of back then as possibly I was, and I am now. But I think now I appreciate both consoles and what both consoles can do and what games they had. So, you know, like the SNES, I really love the SNES because of the controller, the games that it had, you know, the Mario games and the other Nintendo sort of first party games, Super Metroid, that sort of thing. But also, you know, the Mega Drive, again, similar. I never liked the pad as much, the controller. But you can't beat some of them Mega Drive scores or soundtracks that you get on games. You know, the Streets of Rage soundtracks and Thunder Force and some of the other games that just, they have instantly recognizable 16-bit sounds and music from the Mega Drive, and they're just so iconic, some of them as well. And possibly you can remember, I think you can sort of remember visuals and sounds from the Mega Drive possibly more than you can some of the Super Nintendo stuff, even though I think probably the Super Nintendo stuff or games were possibly better in some respects. But yeah, the Mega Drive just has such an iconic kind of nostalgia hit, if you like. So it's very hard to answer that question. I do love both consoles, but if I had to be pressed and had to say one, I would say the Super Nintendo. Which do you think is best? I just favour the Super Nintendo. Is that a fair answer? Is that a fair answer? I'm not saying it's the best, but I favour the Super Nintendo, so I hope that's all right. Next question. What has been your best gaming pickup of the year? And this is from Curse Plays, who's on Instagram and YouTube. So, best gaming pickups of the year. Now, this one I did get prepared for because I wanted to show some. So, it's been a great year for me collecting. I found some really good stuff, ticked off some big hitters for me without spending too much money. But yeah, I picked out 5 things, that just sort of sprung to mind straight away. So the first up was getting my PS Vita. Oh, it's full of finger marks. Look at that, how dirty that is. It's because it's been used. But yeah, I was really pleased to pick up a PS Vita finally. So that was good getting that. The next one, this was a bit of a surprise one for me because I took a complete punt on it. Got it cheap with 50% off in game. I'd seen it around a lot and always thought that looks interesting. So I did pick it up and play it, and I was blown away by how much I actually enjoyed this game. And it was Sakura Wars on the PlayStation 4. It's crazy. It's an absolute crazy game. If you asked me to explain it, I couldn't. It's like a Japanese love kind of novel type game with mech robots and fighting elements to it. It's crazy, but yeah, I really enjoyed that game. It's one of the favourite games that I've played this year. Not many people know about it, but yeah, I loved that game. Another one, and it's the Nintendo Wii Muramasa the Demon Blade. So again, this is a game that I showed on one of my earlier videos. I'd been after this game for quite a while and saw it by chance once in CEX and just grabbed it. And yeah, it's just an amazing game, easily within the my top 10 Wii games, easily, possibly top 5 Wii games actually. Absolutely stunning game, beautiful game, sort of side-scrolling, Metroidvania-ish hack and slash type game. Stunning visuals, stunning sounds. Yeah, I was really pleased to pick that one up and finally play it and be so sort of immersed with it. It was just such a great game to play. So that's another one. Another one which I've been after for a while was Final Fantasy 13 Lightning Returns. Again, this was just a bit of a chance pickup, and I managed to get it really cheap. I think it was £6, and it was marked up wrong in CEX. But yeah, of all the steelbooks I've picked up this year, this is probably my favourite. It's really nice steelbook. I've not had a chance to play it yet though, I must admit, and I will give it a go at some point. But yeah, I would say I'll put that one in there as well as one of my faves from this year. It's always nice to get one where it's been priced up wrong as well. Always sticks in the memory when you do that. And then the final one. So this is a game that I had in my original collection. Sold it on because I just had to, but I got really decent money for it back then. Still sort of sells for decent money now, and it's not the most expensive PlayStation 2 game, but it's also not the cheapest. You don't see it around too often, so when I saw it, I really wanted to add this back in and just had to grab it. And it is Gradius 5 on PlayStation 2 from Konami. So it's a side-scrolling shoot 'em up, but yeah, really amazing graphics on this. It's an insane shooter, really, as a lot of these are these days. But yeah, I was just really happy to pick that up, just because it felt like a game that I'd reluctantly sold from that original collection and just wanted to add it back in at some point. So when I finally managed to find a copy of it and get it back on the shelves, I was, it just felt like my collection was not complete, but there was a big part of it back into that collection. So yeah, that's another one that I really enjoyed getting this year. Okay, next question. SITV Network 9335. Hi Paul, enjoying the channel, thank you very much. What's your most anticipated game you can't wait to play? I'm looking forward to GTA 6, Test Drive and City Skylines 2. Solid picks. Okay, so I've not had a big look over what games are sort of coming up over the next year. I know the PlayStation 5 landscape is looking a little bit barren, certainly for like exclusive games. There's not a huge amount coming out for PlayStation 5 next year, which I'm quite pleased about because it means I can catch up. on some of the games that came out this year, because there's just been so many over the last sort of 2 years. I've still sort of trying to work my way through a lot of those. So, but yeah, I think of the new releases coming out soon, I'm quite interested in that new Prince of Persia game. That looks quite good. I do like that series. So yeah, Prince of Persia. I can't remember the full title of that one. What else is there? So yeah, I don't know what else really. GTA 6. I'm not the world's biggest GTA fan. I've played them. I've got a lot of them, but I don't. Yeah, I just never really got into it as much as as a lot of other people do. So yeah, I don't know about GTA 6. I'm not that fussed about that one. I may give it a look at some point, I'm sure, because I'll probably get taken along with the hype and want to join in the chat and that. But yeah, I don't think it's one that I'll be rushing out to buy. But yeah, in terms of other games, I think next year could be an interesting year for Nintendo. So I say that because obviously there's a lot of signs there about a new console for Nintendo. The Switch is getting on a bit now in console terms. They're putting out a lot of bundles or new sort of Nintendo Switch bundles and packs, which kind of is a bit of a telltale sign that they're starting to wind down the Switch. And the release schedule for the Switch as well, there's a lot of remakes in there, which tells you that the support for the Switch possibly from Nintendo is starting to sort of fade a little bit. And you would expect with that at some point next year there's going to be some sort of announcement about a new console, and I'm hoping with that I think it's almost guaranteed that there'll be some sort of Mario 3D game with that, because obviously we've just had Mario Wonder, so I think they will go 3D next. Whether it'll be Odyssey 2 or something completely different, I'm not sure. But yeah, a new 3D Mario game, I can see that being sort of one of the mid-launch titles possibly. But I am still waiting for that Metroid Prime 4 as well. I just want another Metroid Prime game. And I'm hoping they pull the trigger this time and go for it with this new console, whatever it is. So I would love to play that. But yeah, there's not a huge amount of games on the sort of current gen that I'm overly hyped about, I must admit. I might look through the release schedules for the next year and after this video and sort of think, oh, I should have said that or I should have said that. But yeah, I suppose that shows you where we are at the moment. It does feel like it's going to be a bit of a lean year this year, possibly. But you never know what's what's coming out as well sometimes, because sometimes things just come out of the blue. So yeah, I'm not sure what my most anticipated game is, but I do want Metroid Prime 4. I think that is the one I am really waiting and ready to play, as well as a new F-Zero game. That would be amazing too. So yeah, hope that answers that question. And I think that is all the questions I had. So yeah, thank you for all of the questions. I hope I've answered them okay, not waffled on too much. I hope I've answered them fully as well. I don't feel like I have done some of them, but let me just turn that off. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed that Q&A. Hope you've got to know me as a collector a little bit more. I would like to do another one of these. If this one goes down well, I will probably do another one. I think maybe doing a Q&A sort of like quarterly might be a good idea. Yeah, I think so. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, give it a like. If you've agreed with what some of the answers are given or disagree with some of the answers are given, drop a comment into the comment section. But yeah, I've enjoyed doing that. It was good fun. Thank you for all the questions. And thank you for the support on the channel. As always, if you're not already subscribing, if you could drop a subscription, that would be massively appreciated. I'm already over the 400 subscribers mark now, which I wasn't expecting to hit before the end of the year. I don't think I would hit 250 subscribers by the end of the year, so to get to 400 has been amazing. But yeah, thank you very much, everybody. Have a great new year and have a great 2024 as well, and I'll see you in the new year. Bye everyone.